All right, welcome back everyone to yet another video, and today's video is quite exciting because we're doing something that we've never done before, and that is look at the company pre-IPO. And to be honest, this company, without exaggerating, it excites me more than the Stripe IPO because this company is also a fintech. And let's see, perhaps you'll be excited about this one too as we progress through the video. So which company am I talking about? I'm talking about PayPay. And I posted about this on X, and some people say, sounds too similar to PayPal, so I'm going to skip. Another person said that the logo looks too similar to Disney, so they're going to skip it. But trust me, you want to sit through this video. So basically, PayPay is Japan's dominant fintech platform, basically. They have a majority market share in code-based payment systems, and they're expanding quite rapidly. And don't click away from this video. This is not just just another fintech. This company has some insane secular tailwinds going for it, and we're gonna get into that. So they filed initially back in mid 2025. They were about to go public in December last year, but there was a government shutdown, so they filed again now in mid-February for an IPO and a Nasdaq listing. And they're targeting about $14 to $20 billion of valuation as they go public. And depending on where that lands, this might be a very, very good deal, in my opinion, just from fair intrinsic value. And we'll get into that as well. So some sources say that they're expected to IPO in March. There's still not an official date, but it's imminent. So let's get right into it and why this isn't just another fintech that you should just click away. There's already so many fintechs, right? Because this is a Japanese company. It has some very interesting dynamics going for it. So here we have a chart of the cashless payment ratio in Japan, and as you can see, for a Western developed country, they are still extremely far away from what is the norm for cashless payments. So back in 2018, when this company was formed, so that's where the chart starts here, the Japanese government basically realized how expensive it is to keep a paper currency in circulation, basically cash. So they set out a goal where Japan would become 40% cashless by 2025. Now Japan became basically 40% cashless by the end of 2023 already. So the Japanese government, set a long-term target of 80% instead. So this whole industry has, the backing of the Japanese government. It is in the government's interest that people go cashless, and they are, giving out subsidies and incentives, for merchants and stuff like that. So as you can see, this market is growing very, very rapidly. But the Japanese market, as I said, they've been, cash heavy for a long time. In 2018, when Japan was just at 24%, South Korea was at basically 90%. The US was about 65%. China was something, 80-ish, like 70, 80-ish percent. So, Japan was very, very far behind. And, they have that going for it. But as you can see here, basically about 60% of all Japanese smartphone users are signed up for PayPay. Now, I calculated this, assuming that around, the smartphone penetration rate in Japan is extremely high, something like 98%. So there are different sources of the smartphone penetration rate, but using that, this is a pessimistic scenario. About 60% of all Japanese smartphone users are signed up for PayPay. Basically, they say 2 in 3 Japanese people have this app registered, which is, a massive, massive install base. Because when we talk about super apps, it never seems to work in the West. And there's a good reason for that. There's way too much competition, way too much segmentation. So no one can really, get a whole user base rallied behind one single product. That's why we never get the WeChat, in China. In China, basically, virtually 95 to 100% of all Japanese smartphone users, they have WeChat installed. You won't find that anywhere else in the West, which is why, a SuperApp concept only seems to be working in China. However, PayPay has an insane penetration rate, like 60%. This company was just founded a few years ago. And this is like a pessimistic scenario. If the smartphone penetration rate is less than 98%, even if it's like 95 or something like that, this goes way up. So 2 key things to keep in mind here. One, the government is giving out subsidies. They have long-term goals of going cashless. And the install base is huge. Basically, more or less most Japanese people are registered with PayPay. And as you can see, this is growing insanely fast. In 2022, it was less than half. Now we're at 60% in 2025 by my calculations, and this should just be going up. So you have, a backbone here of what this app can become. Because already today, they have a 70% market share of in-store code payments. So what is a code payment? Basically, Japan had this problem, right? People are using cash. They have an aging population, a lot of elderly in Japan, maybe not as tech savvy, as a young population would be. And you have to, make it convenient. You have to make it easy for people, when you think about the user experience, it has to be extremely easy. Just like, Robinhood made investing very easy at the time. That's why Robinhood is becoming so massive with the retail base. So what is a code payment? Well, basically, you just point your camera at a QR code in the store and you pay. So the way that PayPay managed to get such big penetration, basically immediately after launching the company, is that you don't have to buy expensive point of sale software or hardware. You just need a QR code. So it was very easy to get small and medium-sized businesses onboarded, or even large businesses onboarded. And for SMBs, they basically said that we won't charge you anything for up to 3 years. Just have this in your store. Which, why would you say no? You're getting, government subsidies to go cashless for your, store or for your business. You just put up a QR code, you qualify, for the government subsidies, and people can pay. So this was one of the key reasons, extremely easy to pay, nothing complicated. You just point your camera, you pay. The second thing was that they ran massive campaigns where they, basically handed out free 10 billion yen, which translates to something like, I guess it's like 100K USD, roughly. It's not exactly, but roughly there. They ran several of those campaigns. They had massive cashback campaigns. So they basically, that was like their kind of marketing budget, because once they had these massive campaigns where they basically gave out cash to people, to use the app, it started getting covered in media, started getting covered in TV. Like TV is still huge in Japan. I come from Sweden. In Europe, no one watches TV anymore. It's all, streaming services, but TV is still huge in Japan. News makes its way around, in Japan. So when they went out, with such bold campaigns, the word was out there, people knew about PayPay. And since it was free for the, small to medium-sized businesses to just get onboarded, they managed to get a massive penetration rate, because this company is founded by a joint venture between SoftBank, you might have heard of SoftBank, and Yahoo Japan. Now, when people hear Yahoo in the West, they're like, irrelevant, like Yahoo isn't really a thing, but Yahoo Japan on its own is actually massive. So, with SoftBank's sales force, Yahoo Japan's user base, and with the financial backing from those both, everything was set up, more or less perfectly for PayPay to succeed. And they managed to get a lot of people, a lot of penetration, and, a 70% market share, and just like that. And the market in itself for, mobile payments is expected to compound at 30% annually for the next 10 years, more or less 30%. I have 3 different forecasts by 3 independent firms here. Some are more bullish than others, but in the middle, something like 30% compounded expected. So you have a lot of tailwinds here, a lot of growth left for the company. So most people might think like, well, they already have 70% market share. How fast can it grow? Well, you only have 42% cashless payment ratio in Japan. The market that you dominate is expected to compound at 30%. But, PayPay is only dominant in in-store code payments. And that is still, a relatively small part of the pie. So here is PayPay, and here are code payments. A majority is still credit cards and debit cards. So first, you can grow, just your already dominant market share, in code-based payments. But then you have the rest of the slice of the pie to go after as well. So you really have a lot of growth levers for the company, even though you're already so dominant. You're already, installed by at least, 2 in 3 Japanese people are registered for your app. So there's a lot of growth left for this company, even though they're so dominant today, as Japan, moves further and further into the cashless territory. And they're going IPO basically at a perfect timing because, since they were founded, as I mentioned, they had these, large giveaways, cashbacks. They took a loss, offering the service for free until it was basically too big where the stores couldn't even remove it. So when it was time for these small to medium-sized business to start paying for, having PayPay as an option, all the customers are already expecting you to have PayPay. So you can't just, remove it. That might result in loss of sales. So it was all a really brilliant campaign. And they are transitioning from that hyper growth phase where they just focus on, okay, we need to get users, into now transitioning into we can grow, very, very fast, but also do it extremely profitably. So as you can see here, 2023, negative 6% free cash flow to the firm, 2024, 3%. And now 2025, 20%. So they are scaling, revenues quickly. They are scaling profitability quickly. They have a huge slice of, the cashless payments market to go after. The one that they're already dominant in is growing at 30% compounded. And of course, since you have such a large, user base that is only growing, it continues to grow very, very quickly. They are actually building a whole ecosystem now. So here's a summary of the services that they are offering right now. So you have the payments, code-based payments. They also have credit cards now, going after credit cards. They do bills and taxes. Banking, of course, you can now have a PayPay bank account, with a high interest deposit account. They also offer loans. And also, they now offer, PayPay securities for investing, where you can, invest the points that you make. So point systems are really big in Japan. Like basically, depending on, any e-commerce platform, any service, when you make a payment, you expect that you will get points. So, I shopped a lot on Amazon in Sweden. I wasn't really aware that there could be a point system, but Amazon Japan, depending on what you buy, you get a lot of points that translate into actual money. Some, purchases can be like up to 20. I've seen very, very high, points conversion. So if I buy something for $100, I get $20 worth of points, buying it. So it's like, it's really big to have a point system in Japan, and PayPay, of course, has one too, and you can convert those into investments. So very smart idea. They also do peer-to-peer shopping and food delivery. So they are, expanding and they are already Japan's, biggest digital finance platform. Huge install base, growing quickly, growing profitably, secular tailwinds, in the markets that they operate in. So I'm very, very excited for this company and to see where they IPO at. So as I mentioned, it's expected, imminently, anywhere between 14 to 20 billion USD, market cap. I value it at around 90 to 20. So depending on where it starts trading, I might be very, very interested because, as some of you might know, I just moved to Japan. I see this payment option everywhere. My wife basically always pays using PayPay if it's available. So this app is really, everywhere, and it's just expanding and becoming bigger and bigger. And most important of all, there's not really any competition. There is one called Rakuten Pay, which, they have their own platform, e-commerce platform mainly. So those users are mainly niched towards the Rakuten platform, where, PayPay is more actual physical stores and, online stores, in general. The Rakuten competitor is more, geared towards their own e-commerce platform, which is also huge, but they're nowhere near PayPay scale. Like PayPay is way bigger in the digital payment space. So very excited for this one. Let me know if you like this video. Actually, I also posted so this was just a quick overview, but if you go over to the Substack at research.typeofcapital.com, I actually posted a very, very in-depth research piece on PayPay, where we go through the financials. I show you my valuation model. You can look at all the charts. There's a lot of more stuff, a lot more detail than I covered in this video, because you guys said you prefer a shorter video, so keeping it less than 20 minutes. So yeah, research.typeofcapital.com if you want to read the PayPay piece, and let me know if you like this kind of video where I pitch stocks. I think it's a really interesting one. I'm going to be looking out for the IPO. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will catch you next time. Bye bye.